Yeah, here we go. Another day, another dollar. Happy Wednesday to you. Welcome in. It's another edition of the Joe Raineri Show, brought to you by WagerTalk.com. That is truly your one-stop shop for everything when it comes to wagering advice and wagering knowledge. And we always say knowledge is power, people. The more knowledge you have, the better chance you have of cashing tickets and claiming that action. And we are loaded for you once again here today. Want to welcome those crazy bastards in the chat room once again. Joining us across all the platforms, Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. It is always a pleasure to see you guys. Thank you very much for dropping by and making us a part of your day. I know Mr. Onions is in there. He still's in there, 77, hanging out with us along with Jeremy. Want to welcome in Jeremy, too. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. If you're still at work, you're still in corporate time, we love you. Thank you very much for that. There will always be a very special place here on the show for you corporate time stealers. We love, love, love that. We got a lot to get to here over the next 56 minutes or so. Ricky O'Donnell, NBA extraordinaire, college basketball extraordinaire. He is the editor, writes for SBNation.com. You guys are going to want to hear what he's got to say, his thoughts about the NBA thus far through, just about 2 weeks worth of action, and what's going on with all of the FBI investigation into the NCAA. We've got players being ruled ineligible at Kansas now. Apparently, they should have never been allowed to play. If you guys haven't heard, all sorts of craziness going on with college basketball as the FBI is just bringing the hammer down on what is supposed to be a very corrupt, or at least according to them, a very corrupt industry. So we're going to talk to Ricky O'Donnell from SB Nation here coming up in just a minute. We've got some NFL news. We've got some early betting trends that we want to get to as well in the NFL. And don't forget, World Series Game 2 is about to take center stage, too, in just a couple of hours. We'll kind of give you our thoughts on what happened last night and what we anticipate is going to happen tonight. But we do want to thank our sponsors who make this so possible, including our friends at Miami Acura. 16601 South Dixie Highway, Palmetto Bay, for those of you in the 305. If you have no idea who Pitbull is and you think it's just a breed of dog, the chances are you should call them, 855-564-4669. Go ahead and set up a time for you to go take a test drive. The all-new, the completely redesigned 2019 RDX. God damn, it's like driving in your living room. I don't know what to say. The car drives itself. It is amazing, and it can be yours at a price you never thought was possible. But it's happening right now. The deals are crazy at Miami Acura. So give them a buzz, 855-564-4669. That's 855-564-4669. Tell them Joe sent you, said, I got to put you in that goddamn brand new, all new, redesigned 2019 RDX. I want my RDX, damn it, and they will definitely do it. Well, guys, it's funny. Basketball season's underway. NBA, we're already about 10 days into it. We've got college basketball just around the corner, and I thought who better to talk a little NBA and college hoops than SB Nation's Ricky O'Donnell. He joins us via the Miami Acura hotline. And, Ricky, thanks for taking a few minutes and hanging out with us here today.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
No problem. All right, let's start first and foremost in the NBA, and I think maybe the best storyline thus far is the fact that Laker fans are devouring each other, and there might not be any living Laker fans before it is all said and done here. We've got the Kobe Lakers. We've got the LeBron Lakers. Man, is it too much too soon with this organization? I mean, are Laker fans, are their expectations just all out of whack here?
It's really beautiful, isn't it? Already you've seen when LeBron missed those 2 free throws the other night, Lakers fans were tweeting, Kobe would never. Meanwhile, of course, Kobe Bryant has missed some clutch free throws before in his career, too. These Lakers fans just latch on to the legend of Kobe to such a significant degree and are always pitting him against LeBron. It's going to be a fascinating dynamic to see how that plays out because the Lakers fans don't seem to view LeBron as a quote-unquote true Laker. Meanwhile, LeBron on the other side is saying, hey, I signed a 4-year deal here, while meanwhile the last few years in Cleveland I was playing on a 1-year deal. So LeBron really did make a commitment to the Lakers. I think it's really just a byproduct of this 0-3 start. There's no doubt the competition in the West is going to be one of the greatest challenges of LeBron's career this year, whereas it seemed like he had an easy path to the NBA Finals every year in the East. In the West, it's going to be tough for this Lakers team just to make the playoffs. They're going to need some significant improvement out of their young guys, starting with Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram. Also, you look at their veteran free agent signings, Rondo, Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee. The money they gave to those guys, I think, would have been a lot better spent on someone like Julius Randle, who they let get away to the Pelicans. He's had a really strong start for New Orleans. The Lakers just have a lot of problems right now, and it's going to be up to LeBron to win those fans over. and I can't wait to see if he can do it.
And I know a lot of talk also when you start 0-3, Luke Walton. I mean, I feel terrible for this guy. I think he has the makings. He can be a pretty damn good NBA coach, but he's part of the other regime. This isn't a magic hire. Does he make it the year? Do you think Luke Walton long-term is the guy for this job with, like you said, LeBron made the commitment 4 years. Can Luke Walton survive 4 years with LeBron?
Probably not. I mean, ultimately, it's going to come up to what Magic and LeBron want to do. Remember, LeBron basically got David Blatt fired after Blatt took him to the finals without Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving that one year. And LeBron was justified in that because Ty Lue won him a title against the 73-win Warriors team. So I bet that Luke Walton is probably under a massive amount of pressure right now, and it's going to be really hard for him to keep his job. But there's nothing else he can really do besides for put it all in LeBron's hands, let him run the show, and hope these young guys develop a little quicker than they have been so far.
And also Ricky O'Donnell joining us, SB Nation, NBA writer, also covers college hoops. So far, the offensive numbers are just off the charts, Ricky. I know they had some rule changes that have affected maybe the scoring, but really we're on a record pace with the amount of points being scored thus far in a week and a half of NBA action. Are you surprised on how many points are being scored right now?
I am surprised. I mean, I can't remember seeing NBA games played in the 140s, which seems like it's the norm this year. I do wonder if it's sustainable, but really I think it's a byproduct of the Warriors' influence. It took teams a few years to catch up to Golden State. Now you're never going to be able to copy the current model of Golden State, which is Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. That's just too much top-end talent for anyone to be able to copy or comprehend. But really what they're trying to do is model the early Warriors years, the 73-win team, the first team that won a title the year before that. In terms of pace and space, jacking threes everywhere. I mean, you see a team like the Raptors taking 43-pointers. I think the Jazz took 46 threes against the Warriors the other night when they lost on the tip and at the buzzer. So this is the way the league's going. 3 is always going to be worth more than 2. So that's the simple math equation at the heart of the NBA right now. I don't really think it's going to change too much, but these games in the 140s played at this frantic pace. There's no doubt basketball has evolved overnight, more dramatically than anyone could have anticipated just over the last couple seasons.
Yeah, no, it certainly has, and a lot of eyes have been on Blake Griffin. New city, new team, new uniform. He comes out last night. He drops 50, just a total offensive explosion. I don't know that anybody thought that Detroit was going to be a contender this year, but certainly early returns with Blake Griffin and what they've been able to do with this team.
You know what jumped out to me about that Blake Griffin game? 5 of 10 from three-point range. If I would have told you 5 years ago that Blake Griffin took 10 threes in an NBA game, you would have looked at me like I was crazy. That just wasn't part of his game. If anything, he was stretching the floor from the mid-range only. It's just a byproduct of this era. These big men know they need to stretch out the floor to stay with the league and adapt with the changing times. Griffin is a prime example of that. He's still only 29 years old. He's not the same absolutely elite athlete that we remember early in his career, but his skill level has always been really underrated. I thought he's a very good passer, ball handler. Now he's added range to his jump shot. The East is so wide open that if Griffin can keep this up and if Detroit can actually get something out of their point guards, they could definitely be a factor in the Eastern Conference playoffs, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you can't – we all knew Toronto was going to be good, but Detroit, Milwaukee is certainly going to be there. Boston, I mean, there is the East is – it's got some competition, but for the first time in forever with LeBron being out west, the East, there are some teams with some possibilities that who knows. We could be looking at a totally different team outside of Boston or Toronto in the finals this year.
The East is going to be really fascinating. Obviously, LeBron going west opens it up for everyone else. I still think this is coming down to Boston versus Toronto. Boston is sort of that premium example of how to copy the Warriors, getting wings when everyone else was loading up on big men, making sure their guys could defend and shoot from all 5 positions on the floor. On the flip side, you have Toronto. I think this Toronto team is absolutely loaded. They won 59 games last year, upgraded their best player from DeMar DeRozan to Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi's looked great so far at the early start of the season. Toronto can even make another move. I wouldn't be surprised if they chase Jimmy Butler just to go all in on this season. They know they only have 1 year of a commitment from Leonard. That team's got a lot of depth. They have a ton of shooting all over the floor, and they got two-way guys everywhere, dudes who play both ends of the floor. I really like that Toronto team. I think Boston's the favorite in the East, but Toronto's got a really good chance to upset them.
Yeah, no, you never know what's happening. Ricky O'Donnell, SB Nation, joining us. And Ricky, are the Denver Nuggets the best team in the NBA nobody's talking about?
Denver's phenomenal. I don't know if I'll go that far, but I will say that Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA no one's talking about. He's probably a legitimate top 10 player at this point. We just saw him post a triple-double where he shot 11 for 11 from the field. This guy's unreal. He dominates in a way that we haven't really seen in this era of NBA basketball before. He's an overweight, slow center who doesn't really look like a basketball player by any normal standards. But, geez, his skill level is just so incredible. He's one of the truly great passers in the league at 7 feet tall. He can stroke it from anywhere on the floor with his jump shot, and his IQ is just off the charts. So, if you're looking at NBA players who are emerging superstars this year, I think Nikola Jokic is the first guy you got to look at. His level of production just demands it at this point.
Yeah,
he's in that status.
Absolutely, and there's going to be some fun times to watch this year with that team. And also out of the gate, I mean, listen, we know when you're dealing with a 7-footer in the Pelicans, and you've got to deal with just that monster that Anthony Davis is. We know he's going to get his, but maybe surprising enough is what the other pieces around him are starting to do. I mean, they're averaging 140 points a game. I mean, give me a break.
Love the Pelicans. Think the Pelicans are totally legit this year. It really started last season with their trade for Nikola Mirotic coming over from the Bulls. Mirotic has been a stud since they got him. He's averaging close to 30 points a game at the early start of the season. He's someone who gives them that spacing component with Davis that they didn't have before when Davis was playing the nominal power forward. Now they slide Davis to center. That was the obvious move all along. It took them too long to realize that with Davis at center and Mirotic spacing the floor out to 3 next to him, this team just has a lot of offensive firepower. You look at the backcourt, they added Elfrid Payton this year to take the place of Rajon Rondo. He's been a pretty good, productive player for them. Drew Holiday's stud. He's one of the most underrated guys in the league, I think. Ejuan Moore, good bench guy. Only problem with the Pelicans, do they have enough wings to compete? It's been the problem with that roster for a few different years now. Wing is the single most important position in the NBA. They might have the weakest crop of wings of any of the elite teams in basketball right now. With that being said, when you got Anthony Davis, it can tend to mask a lot of problems, and I think that's the formula they're going to be rolling with throughout the year.
Are they going to be forced to choose between Julius Randle and Mirotic before the end of the year?
Well, right now, Randall's coming off the bench, and he's killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 25 last night. I think that he's perfect as a third big man. They only gave him the mid-level exception, so there wasn't like a huge market for him, despite, the reputation he had coming into the league through the draft. I think that, that signing was really inspired by the Pelicans, and I can't believe the rest of the league just let him nab Randall on that contract.
Yeah, no, exactly. But you know what? That's it's working for them, and it's been a fun start to the NBA season for sure. And just around the corner, the college basketball season getting ready to take center stage. And joining us via the Miami Acura hotline, Ricky O'Donnell, SB Nation. He covers the NBA as well as college hoops. And Ricky, the big story all off season has been this, the FBI investigation, and everyone's fingers are in the cookie jar. And what do you think, Rick? I mean, what is ultimately going to be the big storyline coming from this investigation? What are we going to see? What is everyone going to be talking about?
The actual trial, what is being played out in court right now, is kind of insane. I don't know if a lot of people realize it. It's 2 Adidas executives and an agency runner who are currently defending themselves. And what the prosecution is trying to prove is that universities were defrauded by these men, meaning that the universities were working within the strict confines of the NCAA rules to play fair, and that these guys were going behind their back and paying players under the table. It's an absolutely ridiculous concept that anyone with half a brain could sniff out before this even went to court.
Wow.
To me, the real intrigue for the trial is just all of the details that come out. Today we saw Kansas basically suspend Silvio De Souza, one of their better big men, whose name has been popped up throughout the trial, getting money from Maryland, also getting money from Kansas and Adidas. So I think the details are what's going to be really juicy, even if the verdict doesn't really matter. Obviously the universities were not defrauded in this. That's an insane concept. There's been a black market in college basketball for 60, 70, 80 years. It's because of amateurism. As long as the players aren't allowed to get a piece of the pie, there's always going to be a black market. So to me, it's what details are going to come out during this trial, and then how will the NCAA punish them. That's what's going to have a bigger impact just on the sport this year and in the future.
Are there any of the big blue bloods in serious trouble here when it all comes said and done? I mean, the Kentuckys, the Kansases, the Louisville, we already know their issues there. But are we looking at some serious sanctions being handed down to some of these blue blood franchises?
You never know. The NCAA drags its feet on everything. Their discipline is so uneven, and really all of this is so stupid because it's the NCAA's fault in the first place for clinging to amateurism, which everyone agrees is an outdated model. It's tough for me to sit here and say what the discipline is going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised if the NCAA does, swing a big stick and levy some punishments here. We already saw Kansas, lose to Sousa today. He was going to be a key player for them, so we'll see what else comes out, but I would not be feeling comfortable right now if I'm a Louisville fan, a Kansas fan, or any of the other programs primarily involved in this investigation.
It's going to get fun. A lot of drama. It is officially basketball season, both NBA and college getting ready to go underway, and nobody better to follow than Ricky O'Donnell, the SB Nation. Make sure that you guys check him out at SBN_Ricky. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. Always some great stuff. And Ricky, a pleasure talking to you, brother. Thank you so much for taking some time. Look forward to doing this again, man.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
You got it. Ricky O'Donnell, SBNation.com. Make sure you guys check him out. And y'all, we got to keep posted on what's happening with this trial too, because the NCAA, first of all, is one of the most corrupt organizations I think known to mankind. If you think politics is a bag of shit, they have nothing. The corrupt level that happens at the NCAA is ridiculous. I mean, don't forget, college athletics is $1 billion industry. So anytime that you're going to mess with that kind of money, yeah, the organization that oversees $1 billion, a group like this, they are going to tend to look the other way 9 times out of 10. They're only going to do what's in the best interest of the money, not necessarily the student athletes. And college basketball forever has been as corrupt as it comes. College football is just behind that. They make too much money. The college basketball and college football are the money makers for everything else on a campus, no matter what anybody tells you. That is why we will never see college athletes getting paid. They will never justify it. There is so much money at stake with these guys, and it is so damn corrupt. And then you got guys from Adidas that are paying players and paying coaches, and it's out of control. That much money is never, and I mean never, a good thing to have around amateur athletics. And I'm going to be very interested to see what happens after this trial. What do they do? Do they hope everyone forgets about it and they slap a few people on the wrist and don't ever do it again and let's move on? It's going to be fun to see what happens. But yeah, college basketball and college football, it don't get any more corrupt than that. It's almost as corrupt as our chat room right now with these lunatics that are joining us on all the platforms: Twitch, Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Guys, thank you very much for hanging out with us once again. Do not enter that chat room if you have thin skin. These guys bring it. They know their shit. These are not guys to mess with. They are people that you show them a little chink in that armor, man, and they will take you down. This is a rough crew in there, but they know their stuff. Not to mention, many of them are stealing corporate time right now, which we love and we applaud. So congratulations for making us a part of your day. We thank you. Do not forget also, guys, our hotline into the studio, 855-983-2255. If you want to chime in, if you can't make the phone call because you're stealing that corporate time, we completely understand, but we do want to welcome you guys and welcome those of you that are in the chat room. And thank you once again, Ricky O'Donnell, SBNation.com. Make sure you guys check him out. Some really, really great stuff on the NBA comes from SB Nation, and he's the editor for him. So when it comes to college hoops and it comes to the NBA, no better place to get your info there than with Ricky O'Donnell. All right, tonight we've got another game in the World Series. We will get to who are the favorites tonight and what's going on there after we talk a little NFL news and some breaking news and what's happening around the league. Now, if you guys didn't hear it because you were at work all day, we talked about it yesterday. Chad Kelly, the nephew of the legendary Jim Kelly, Buffalo Bills quarterback, he got himself into a little trouble this week when he apparently got really trashed at a Von Miller Halloween party, and this is a party that happens each and every year, and it's just kind of, it's only for teammates. It's not kind of open to the public or anything. It's supposed to be, it's used as some sort of bonding thing with teammates, and Von Miller apparently throws this every year. But it turns out that that Chad Kelly got into a little bit of trouble there, got a little loaded, ended up on somebody's couch, and then ended up getting beaten with some sort of vacuum hose or something. And the cops ended up finding him a little bit later on the same street. I guess he was sitting in a SUV, and the cops ended up arresting him. What we learned a little more today was that he was actually thrown out of the party by security because he was getting into it with some people at the party. And I don't understand this, but police, the reports from police are saying that he was, there was no alcohol involved. There was no alcohol in his system, which means he was either tripping balls or something was going on there that didn't settle well with Chad Kelly, because if he wasn't drunk, I'm not quite sure what was going on there, but he ends up getting into a fight, and then he's mumbling on some family's couch. He ends up getting beaten with a damn vacuum hose, and then he runs out, and now he gets tossed. This came out earlier that, in fact, according to our friend there, Ian Rappaport, the Rap Sheet, he reported that the Broncos did release Chad Kelly. They were not happy, and John Elway was not very happy with this. That makes it now, and he was kicked off a high school team, I guess a college team, and now he's been kicked off an NFL team. It's kind of the trifecta that nobody ever wants, but Chad Kelly has it. So, and there you can see it, that he was having a physical altercation with people at Von Miller's party, and it just did not go well at all for him. So I'm sorry to hear that for Chad Kelly. It looks like he's going to have to figure out another career path, or he can hang out with Johnny Manziel in Canada, because I'm sure they're hiring. You can always head over to the Canadian Football League. It appears that there's plenty of opportunities there for them. So, but right now, Chad Kelly doesn't look like he's going to get signed, released. Don't forget, he was Mr. Irrelevant, too. He was the last pick of the NFL draft. Usually those guys don't make it in the NFL. And he was really just a few snaps away from taking over the quarterback position from Case Keenum in Denver. And now that's out. And I do believe, was it Hogan? Hogan is now the backup quarterback for the Denver Broncos and Case Keenum. So things went from bad to worse for the Denver Broncos organization. But Chad Kelly no longer with the Denver Broncos, and he is all out of chances. I don't know how many, there's only so long that you can ride the Jim Kelly name before you just run out of opportunities, and it'll be interesting to see what was going on there. If he didn't have any alcohol in him, what the hell were you partying with, dude, that you got violent, number one, and then number two, you were so incoherent that you ended up getting beaten with a vacuum hose, and you were hanging out on a couch in some family's living room. The whole thing is crazy to me, but it won't be. Next year, he'll be in the CFL hanging out with Johnny Manziel for sure. You can count on that. But that's it for Chad Kelly. No more in the NFL, which is unfortunate. Also, we told you yesterday, Patrick Peterson was done in Arizona. The cornerback was demanding that he be traded. In fact, he went so far as to mention a few teams that he would like to land with. But it turns out that he went 180 degrees today and released this on his Twitter page, talking about how, in fact, he had a sit down, I guess. He talked with ownership. The ownership assured him that they, in fact, are definitely committed to winning, and that they vowed to him that they're going to do everything that they can in order to make sure that he is part of a winning team moving forward, and they have no intentions of trading him whatsoever. So he took to Twitter and gave us this bag of here, that he's been incredibly frustrated with how the season has gone, but he wanted to reassure everyone, Cardinal fans, that he is 100% focused on being part of the solution and helping the team turn around. He says, I've never shied away from a challenge before, and I'm not starting now. I have always given my all to the Cardinals organization, my teammates, and my fans. That is what I intend to do for the years to come. I am an Arizona Cardinal, and my focus is on this week's game until, of course, it is no longer on this week's game and they get their asses blown out, and then he'll be back to saying, trade me once again. I don't know. I mean, you guys tell me. This is not a guy that I could trust in a locker room anymore. And he is one of the team leaders here. But when your leader on defense and a guy like Patrick Peterson opens his mouth and publicly goes out and demands that he be traded because he doesn't believe in the organization, and then 48 hours later, he all of a sudden does a turnaround after a meeting with the ownership. I mean, at that particular point, if you're in the lock, can you play with this guy? Don't they almost at this point have to get rid of him? Because how can you trust a guy like that? And in the locker room, in professional athletics, man, you've got to be able to trust the dude that you are going to war with, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And if every time things go hard left, you're crying and demanding that you get traded, that's going to rub a lot of guys wrong in that locker room. So I don't know how the Cardinals are going to deal with this. I mean, I wouldn't want to trade him anyway. He's one of a handful of shutdown corners that you have in the NFL. This guy is a piece that some teams, a team like New Orleans, you add this guy on the New Orleans Saints, and all of a sudden that defense goes from, average to Super Bowl, giving a team a chance to win a Super Bowl. He's the kind of piece that could truly put a team over the edge, certainly on the defensive side of the ball. But how the hell do you trust him if you're an Arizona Cardinal now? Dude, you wanted to leave. Like, you told everybody, trade me. I don't want to be here because I'm kind of stuck with a bunch of jerk-offs here that can't win. So it's not going to get good. And I can guarantee you this whole PR thing of him putting this on Twitter, and he's trying to mend some fences in that locker room right now. And we're still only 8 weeks into the season. We're only halfway through the season. So it's going to be a very awkward remainder of the year for those that are with Patrick Peterson in the Cardinals organization. He has 2 years left on his contract with the Cardinals, $11 million next year, $12 million in 2020. And if he's going to be a member of this franchise for years to come, then there's going to have to be, over the next 12 to 18 months, some sort of contract extension. But are the Cardinals really going to give him a contract extension? I don't know. Or he'll be traded for draft picks and younger players in the next 2 years, which ultimately could be what happens. But I do think this was strictly a damage control tweet, and this whole PR stunt by the Cardinals organization going that we talked to him, everything is cool, everything is copacetic. I think that's a bag of crap. I think that was strictly just damage control on their part. Some other news around the NFL. The Dolphins tomorrow night taking on the Houston Texans, and they're going to be doing so with a bunch of wide receivers nobody's ever heard of. I mean, the guys that they announced that will be promoted from the practice squad, Leonte Carew was promoted, and all of this because Albert Wilson has, it looks like he's going on IR. He's going to avoid surgery, but he is landing himself on injured reserve, which means that the Dolphins have to look for guys, anybody who can catch a ball at this point, to try and make up the difference. They are hurt in the wide receiver position. It's unbelievable. They got guys. He was a third-round pick in 2016, but he hasn't developed. He's got 10 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown in 28 games over the last 2 years. The Dolphins have already ruled out Kenny Stills for tomorrow night, which leaves Carew, Danny Amendola, Jakeem Grant, and Devontae Parker, who at any moment can be traded right now. You want to talk about another guy that's not playing well in a locker room? Devontae Parker is... his agent comes out last week and just rips Adam Gase and the organization, and it's a total mess in the Miami locker room right now as well. So they have nobody to throw the ball to, and that hurts because Ryan Tannehill has also been ruled out, which means we got another week of Brock Osweiler. Only this time Brock Osweiler's got guys like Carew to throw the ball to, and no Kenny Stills, Amendola, Jakeem Grant, and Devontae Parker. This is going to be a mess tomorrow for the Miami Dolphins. And in fact, interesting stat here we want to throw up for you guys regarding the Miami Dolphins and that game tomorrow. And we'll deep dive a little bit more into this game tomorrow with our friends from Wager Talk. Of course, Ralph Michaels, the legendary handicapper, he joins us each and every Thursday. He'll have some thoughts on this game tomorrow night. But Miami 1-7 against the spread in the last 8 road games. And the numbers get only worse from there, but keep that in mind. 7.5, I believe, is the number right now for the game, and it's been bouncing back between 7 and 7.5. So it might be up by 8 before it's all said and done. Also in the NFL news, Bilal Powell, one of the only, I believe, one of the only holdovers, the longest tenured New York Jet, is also been placed on injured reserve, and that could be his final. Well, he could have seen his final action on the New York Jets in that Minnesota game. He ended up hurting his neck in that game, and as it turns out, he needs neck surgery. And not only is there no chance that he'll return from injured reserve this season, they're not sure that he'll ever return to play football at all. It's that serious of an injury. And it's tough because Powell was a guy that he was the longest tenured New York Jet there. He was a 4th-round pick in 2011, and he really started to play a big role for the Jets right after he was drafted, right around the end of year 1, right in the beginning of year 2. 791 runs for 3,500 yards, caught 204 passes, and scored 20 touchdowns for the team. He was always kind of the second guy in line until this year, where he really started to take a lead role here, especially with the injuries that have been mounting for them. And he was set for free agency next year in the offseason. It's just, the whole thing is unfortunate, but it does look like not only, and we wish him the best because I've been a big Bilal Powell fan for the New York Jets, but not only is he done with the New York Jets, but there's a very good chance that he's done in the NFL altogether now that he's going to need neck surgery. So that kind of stinks. Keep that in mind. Also, Cooper Kupp doubtful for Sunday. They came out with that announcement. So once again, not like the Rams need it, not like they don't have enough weapons, but Cooper Kupp is expected to miss at least one more game before he returns. He had a knee injury a couple of weeks ago. Sean McVay came out and said that he's making progress. He's not going to play in this weekend's game against the Green Bay Packers, but they do anticipate that he will be back very shortly after that. He got hurt in the Denver game when he took a hit on the knees from Darian Stewart in the first half in the Broncos secondary, but he does look like one more week without him, and then they'll have their full arsenal of Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, and they'll be able to keep the ball rolling, not as if they have all sorts of problems. But sprained MCL is what they said the injury was, and the only thing that you can do for it at this point is rest, and that's what they plan on doing for him. So some rough news in the NFL today for a whole lot of folks, including the New York Jets, and of course the Miami Dolphins, who have completely run out of options at the wide receiver position. So have the New York Jets, for that matter. Bryce Butler, I guess. Bryce Butler is also visiting the Jets. They ended up signing. Who did they sign? Quincy Anua's out. Richard Matthews. They just signed Richard Matthews yesterday because the Titans wanted nothing to do with him. He demanded that they get rid of him, and they did rather quickly. He's been trying out for a few teams. He landed with the Jets rather. So Richard Matthews is somebody that will be catching passes, at least Jet fans hope he'll be catching passes for him this weekend, and they may very well take a shot at Bryce Butler, who's coming from Dallas, I believe. 15 passes for 317 yards, 3 touchdowns in 13 games with the Cowboys last year. So didn't play an awful lot here. He signed with the Cowboys in early September, spent 5 games on the roster, but then they ended up saying bye-bye, certainly after they brought in Amari Cooper. So the Jets don't have any wide receivers, and the Miami Dolphins definitely don't have any wide receivers. So that should be a very, very, very interesting week for the quarterbacks, for Brock Osweiler and for Sam Darnold. So we'll see what happened in there. I do want to remind you guys, too, if you haven't done so, make sure you check out wagertalk.com. Knowledge is power, people. If you're planning on taking any action in tonight's game, the World Series Game 2, and we'll go over that here in just a second. But if you're thinking about doing that, you got to have the knowledge and you got to have access to some of the best sports handicappers in the country, and they are available to you at wagertalk.com. They got free picks, they got free advice, they've got all of those handicappers from around the country all available to you just at the touch of a button. So take advantage of that. Knowledge is power. Nobody's got better knowledge than wagertalk.com. It is free. Go check it out. You guys will see exactly what we're talking about. And don't forget, tomorrow, our man will be joining us, Ralph Michaels, the legendary handicapper himself. He'll be joining us on the show 4 o'clock tomorrow, and we'll go over not only the Thursday night game, but the Saturday college football picks as well as the Sunday games. We do it each and every week, and he has been on fire lately, Ralph Michaels. So looking forward to that. Le'Veon Bell still nowhere to be found, and it doesn't look like he's going to be coming back anytime soon. That's what, $14.5 million in the franchise tag that he's just leaving out there on the table. That's a bit of a rough one for Le'Veon Bell and for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's happening, whether you want to believe it or not, Pittsburgh fans. You're stuck with James Conner. Not a bad place to be stuck, by the way. The guy has been on fire this year. But if anybody's been hoping that, you know, you're going to be able to get back Le'Veon Bell and maybe have a Le'Veon Bell and James Conner duo in the backfield, doesn't look like it's going to happen. Doesn't look like he's going to be coming back anytime soon. Tonight, Game 2 of the World Series. All right, who do you guys like? Last night, it looks like the Dodgers just didn't know what to do with themselves. Way too many mistakes ended up costing them. The Red Sox have done what they have been doing all postseason long, is nobody has been better with 2 outs and men in scoring position than the Red Sox. Just crazy. They've scored 17 more runs than the Dodgers. They've played in 2 fewer playoff games. And of the 64 runs that the Red Sox have scored in the playoffs, and this stat is just staggering, of the 64 runs the Red Sox have scored, 32 of them have come with 2 outs. And they did it again all night last night. Dodgers just kept giving them outs, and they left that door open, and that's exactly what happened, is the Red Sox walked through it. Kershaw was not the Kershaw. He had no slider whatsoever there. His fastball, couldn't place it. And you could kind of tell in the first inning, man, Mookie Betts came out there, and when he almost took his head off with that single back up the middle, you could tell Kershaw wasn't faking anybody out. They were swinging. They were getting ready to go. And the Red Sox all year long have just kind of thrown out their best players and said, okay, we're going to beat you. They won 108 games in the regular season with that mentality. And meanwhile, the Dodgers, who have been stuck in analytic hell, they kind of didn't know what the hell to do last night. They kept out thinking themselves and trying to be a step ahead of what what they were going to do, but they didn't really do anything. All they ended up doing was putting out their best people, and their best people were way better than the Dodgers last night. So Game 2 tonight, you got David Price taking the mound, row for the Dodgers. I don't know. David Price is coming off of that big victory for what? I think he won for the first time in his career as a starter in a clinching game against the Astros in the championship series. Rye is just he's been going backwards for the Dodgers. It hasn't been good at all. Last night, Dodgers win 8-4. Ken Price put back-to-back starts together in these kinds of big situations and big plays and be able to get it done. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of wind tonight. The weather report calls for, I think, anywhere from 13, 14, 15 mile-per-hour winds gusting from left to right, and there's also going to be a wind chill. It's going to feel like it's in the mid-30s, which, again, is just mind-blowing that we're playing baseball in mid-30s. That's how you start playing baseball, by the way, in March when you go to spring training in a lot of places. The beginning of the season in April, once you get to Detroit and Milwaukee and different places like that, up north in New York, you go to Yankee Stadium, Shea Stadium. Those games in April, man, are like in 30, 40 degrees still. It is brutal, and it's like that again tonight. So the bullpens for both of these teams, It is still kind of flip a coin and hold your breath at times, but the numbers overall, especially over the last 30 to 60 days, have been pretty good with both of them. I do think this is a huge spot for Price at home. He is looking to erase all of those atrocious memories of the past in the playoffs, those playoff demons, and he can really kind of rewrite his entire image and his entire perspective if he goes ahead and goes out and wins tonight. I don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring tonight due to the fact because of that wind and because we're probably going to get a lot of ground balls from both of these pitchers. So my suggestion is I think the under is 8.5. That's probably not a bad way to go. I do think that we're going to see a very tightly played game. I don't think we're going to see an awful lot of runs. So the Dodgers do struggle hitting for average against lefties. We know this. They have had this problem all year long, but they did rank third in home runs against lefties. So we might see one or two long balls in this game, and this has got kind of 3-2, 2-1 written all over it. I kind of see that's where it's going to be tonight. So it'll be fun though if David Price, if you go up 2 games to none, and the Dodgers simply cannot afford to go down 2 games 2-1. They just can't do it. So, but with the weather tonight and what's going on and who's going on the mound, I would say under 8.5 is probably a very, very solid bet. Also, I would do the under 4.5 for the first 5 innings. I kind of like that bet too. Price's first 2 postseason starts at Fenway, they weren't great, but his numbers overall at home have been solid. He's under 3 in an ERA. He's got a 1.08 whip, and he faces that Dodgers team that is hitting just .216 against lefties this postseason, and they did that pretty much all year long. So if there's something that the Red Sox don't do great either in that ballpark is also hit against lefties, and that's what they're going to be doing against tonight. And he's been the Dodgers' best pitcher since returning from that groin injury in August, and they hope that he returns to form and he gives them what he kind of did the last month and a half. But neither one of these two teams hits lefties very well. You got 15-mile-an-hour winds out there. You might have a long ball here or there, but I wouldn't anticipate an awful lot of scoring. So the under 4.5 in the 5-inning bet, not a bad way to go. And then the under in total 8.5 is probably where I'd be looking. And those are the bets that I'm going to be placing here tonight. So Kelly Raspberry. Oh, my God. Kelly Raspberry joining us. Oh, good Christ almighty. And where is Kelly? You're looking to, yes, I know. Yeah, if I'm looking for someone to catch a ball, oh, God, Christ almighty, I can't even believe that. Did that come up? Or is it? Where is he? Can we get Kelly Raspberry on there? Let's see. There it is. There's Kelly. There is Kelly joining us, you crazy bastard, you. But, yes, that's where I would go tonight. But don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have you all set up for this weekend's action, including tomorrow night's, Thursday night's game, Dolphins, Houston Texans, all sorts of things that you need to know. We'll get you caught up with all of that tomorrow as our friends from WagerTalk.com join us. That being, of course, Ralph Michaels. We'll break down the games for you, but that's what you've got going on tonight. You've got about 7 or 8 NBA games. You got about 5 or 6 NHL games. You got a lot to keep you busy tonight, so keep it rolling, all right, guys? There's money to be made out there, I tell you that, but there's money to be made because of knowledge, and the more knowledge you have, the better off you're going to be. So make sure you head over to WagerTalk.com and check that out. Who else is over there? So, Onions, we love you. Thank you very much for stopping by tonight. He still want to thank you, as always, all of you lunatics in the chat room. You guys rock. Make sure also Ricky O'Donnell, SBNation.com, NBA, college hoops. Nobody covers it better than he does. Make sure you guys check him out there. That's Ricky O'Donnell, SBNation.com. Some great stuff from him today. If you missed the interview, make sure as soon as we're done here, check it out. Beginning of the show here, some great stuff about what's been happening in the NBA. Also a great take on what's been going on with the trial right now, NCAA basketball, the FBI, who's going to get slapped, who's not, who's in trouble. Some great information there. You don't want to miss that, and we want to thank Ricky O'Donnell for stopping by as well. So you guys were great. Don't end up going to any Halloween parties and losing your job like Chad Kelly. Don't do it. Come back and join us tomorrow, 4 o'clock. We'll do it all over again. We're excited. All right, it's this time of year. We got Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, college hoops getting ready to start, college football. It's a good time to be a sports fan. So you guys enjoy the night, enjoy the game. Come back, join us tomorrow, 4 o'clock. We'll do it all over again. Thanks for making us a part of your day. We'll talk to you tomorrow, guys.